Welcome to Art of Poetry. We are still in January, and this is taping our third show. And today, we are going to move west because Jem and I taped a show on Native Nations of New England. That's what that was about a month ago or so. And with my very special guest and co-producer of this show, he's definitely the brains of the outfit today, if not always. My longtime, there he is, very loyal, talented, and I would say the guy with the most from our graduating class of '64, Fairfield University, with the most valuable sense of moral probity. Moral and ethical probity, something that many of us lose along the way in the current culture, but he is solid. And we go back to 61 or 2 and rubbing shoulders at the cafeteria, and here we are again. Victor turned 80, I'm 81, and he just told me that one of the poets he's featuring today, and Scott Momaday, will be turning 89 in February. Wow, what a generation. So, another opening, another show. That's entertainment, folks. And Victor is really got it for entertaining you. I will pipe up.
I hope.
And there goes Vic, he's piping up. But I will pipe up occasionally. And we are ready to go. Victor has got a poem lined up. And first two are light, and he can introduce the poet. We are now in the Midwest. You know, maybe we should call it the prairie country, because as we were saying just before taping, you know, they were there first. Yeah, we're talking Minnesota, Wisconsin, South Dakota, and gee whiz, why do we have to settle for Midwest? You know, like halfway? No, it's prairie country. It's a whole culture of its own, as we shall see. Right?
Right, and it's about time you got out here because, frankly, we do have more natives than you people do. Mainly because we're less densely settled, so we couldn't push them out as efficiently as was done back east. You had less time, and now they're reviving, becoming more assertive. As a matter of fact, things have been quite lively around here on the native scene. A regent of the University of Minnesota had to step down because he suggested one of the campuses might be getting too diverse. This particular campus gives free tuition to students of Native heritage. And some of his constituents said their children were feeling reluctant. They didn't feel comfortable with all those non-white people there. There was an uproar, and so we got rid of one rather reactionary regent. He's slowly fading. So yeah, Native issues are quite lively out here.
Glad to hear. Glad to hear that anecdote too. Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. I won't mention his name, he suffered enough, but the regent, I mean. Yeah. Our first poet is going to be Denise Sweet, and I think we have a composite portrait of her. We could see that on screen instead of my aged features. There she is. So I'll read about her. Her work was recommended to me by her former colleague, retired Professor Tim Hirsch, of the University of Wisconsin in Eau Claire. And I thank him for that. She is an Anishinaabe poet of the White Earth Group or band, and has been a professor of humanistic studies at the U of Wisconsin in Green Bay. She was Wisconsin's second poet laureate. She taught creative writing, literature, and mythology, as well as a travel seminar involving fieldwork among the Mayan peoples of the Yucatan Peninsula and Guatemala. She's presented many public readings in the US, Canada, Mexico, and Guatemala, and has had several poet in residence appointments too. Didn't just sit in her tenured seat at all. She really got around. She's even taught at the Grand Marais Art Colony. I don't know if people in Connecticut are familiar with Grand Marais, Minnesota. Minnesota stretches over the north shore of Lake Superior. And it's probably too cold for most people in Connecticut to consider going there, but there is an art colony there. I think they clear out when it gets cold. Otherwise, there'll be a lot of frozen solid starving artists waiting to thaw out in the spring. But anyway, so she's taught there as well. She's published several volumes of her own poetry. The latest is Palominos near Tuba City. Let me repeat that so you can go out and buy it. Palominos near Tuba City. I've just begun looking into her work, and it has been rewarding. Now, I've got two selections by Denise, and I'm going to read the first, and Frank is going to read the second. The first is called My Mother and I Had a Discussion One Day. My mother and I had a discussion one day, and she said I was quite fortunate to have two sons. And I said, how is that? And she said, with daughters, you worry for them. Birth control, child rearing, you worry for them. The threat of rape. And then there's the wedding expense. I looked into her tired eyes and clouded face and saw that she was quite serious. Yes, but, I said, boys eat more. My mother and I had a discussion one day, and she said, why do they call it women's music? And I said, because they sing it. Take from it, feel good and strong when they walk away from it. While we sit here, this is going on. Are you telling me, my mother said, up until now, I have been listening and know women have been singing? And I said, that is right. And she said, that is ridiculous, and hummed a tune of her own. My mother and I had a discussion one day, and she said, why do you want to leave this house? It is a fine house. And I said, I didn't think there was much of a market for a nose wiper, a kitchen keeper, an under-the-bed sweeper. She said, my smart mouth would get me in trouble one day. And I looked at her scarred knuckles and quivering chin and realized that I had spit in the face of 1,000 women. And I wept with my mother. That poem has quite a bit of movement, doesn't it, from humorous to sober?
Doesn't it, though? That was a wonderful, wonderful reading and transition, too. I love the repetition of, I was quite fortunate, my mother and I had a discussion. It's repeated 3 times, 3 stanzas. That has kind of a rhetorical power to it, you know?
There's a lot of it in oral tradition, of course, because it helps the listener remember.
Uh-huh.
Think of those poor Spartan boys who had to memorize the Iliad and the Odyssey.
Can you imagine 6,000 lines? Of course, they had patterns.
Yeah. And I wonder how thoroughly they were tested. But anyway, we're back. Never mind the Spartans. We'll go back to the Anishinaabe. So that's Denise Sweet, My Mother and I. There are many other poems. And I imagine by now your viewers have realized that they may have certain expectations of the subject and style of Native American poetry, and these expectations are repeatedly violated, right?
Right. All the way.
So the verse they write is very much in the present day in the urban as well as rural environment. And the one you're going to read, I think, is an example of that.
It's a beauty. I'm so glad you're sharing it with me and giving me this to read. Also, they have the ability to include the modern irony that goes with life, and sometimes with a hard life on the reservation, and also the sense of humor. So yeah, the expectations of Connecticut viewers and listeners are probably different from what we're experiencing right here now. And Zen and the Women's Way of Parking, Denise Sweet. Sorry, it's singular. Zen and Woman's Way. I guess that's general. We know sooner than we think when the vehicle we are driving refuses to be herded into its stall. We crank the wheel and ease our way around and in and back and forth and then back out and forward and in again and then back and forth till we have neatly and carefully negotiated a big thing into a small space. Quote, it's all in the wrist when we speak of power steering, or for that matter, our lover. And yet, it is a maneuver that requires integration of our body, mind, and spirit. The contortive efforts of the drive imitate hatha yoga positionings, as we expected to see front and behind, this side and that side, all at the same time. Be in the here and now, in the parking lot. Serenity is not far behind, neither is the Volvo parked in the next lane. And how quickly we computate space, density, width, length, and probability. At that moment, we grind the gears from first to reverse and back again. After careful deliberation, the geniuses that we are, we arrive at the parking nudge principle. Simply put, it is necessary and tender act to nudge the vehicle to the front and back of us as we locate parameters of the space we are to become. Oh, to be parked in a stall of our own, but spiritually connected with all that exists around us. Nirvana is achieved, and the headlights are on. Let them call us, quote, lady drivers. Let them curse and shake their fists at the, quote, battle axe behind the wheel. We'll give them no fast break, no free ride. Indeed, we will not yield even though the sign insists. Oh, sisters, this is the right way of revolution. A woman's way of parking is knowing and seeing and feeling our way around this hard, flat landscape we call a parking space. We have finally come to a place of which we surely belong. We are at last in the driver's seat, and we laugh in the face of cruise control. That is such a hoot of a wonderful poem, just poking fun and making fun and enjoying all the idiosyncrasies that we all have, men and women, but here the details of nudging, parking nudge principle. I love it. It's like, just tap the car in front, tap the car in back to define your space, know where you are. But how beautiful the imagery is also of this vehicle we are driving in the third line refuses to be herded into its stall. Picture this. Beginning of the poem again. We know sooner than we think when the vehicle we are driving refuses to be herded into its stall. This is ranch land and farmland imagery, which is so South Dakota and Midwest and prairie land. She's got a great sense of humor, poking fun everywhere. I could read that 3 times. It was so much fun with a chuckle each time. Way to go, Denise. It does, though, have an echo in a strange way. I haven't figured out if there's an illusion or not. Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. I really liked that book because it was traveling, and it was traveling through the Midwest and I think everywhere else. That's what it brought up for me.
She does make some good use of, popular notions of Zen, getting it pretty much right without taking it too seriously. So yeah. For instance, be in the here and now in the parking lot. Serenity is not far behind. Neither is the Volvo parked in the next lane, so watch out.
I like that.
Yeah.
And all the challenges that go with, I guess this is called parallel parking, right?
Right.
And
I shared this poem with Gemma Matthewson. She appreciated it very much, and then she came back and said, I am extremely good at parallel parking. My husband has me do it, we're driving together, so.
Oh, I'm glad you
I guess,
filled that out. Her husband has her do it. Oh, I love that. Oh,
Yeah.
Thanks. And that is so true of Gemma. She's really a scientist as well as a poet. That's marvelous. I bet she got a few chuckles out of this one. Did she know this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think Denise Sweet is new to Jenna. She's fairly new to me.
Uh-huh.
And the person who introduced me, referred me to her, gave me another one too that we're not going to get to today. But he said he was the first person to teach a course in Native American literature at the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire. So he may be a resource if we ever want to resume this theme on the show.
Oh, we do, because this is the third of 3 shows that we have done recently, thanks to Gemma again, suggesting that we finally get around to doing Native Nations, Native Voices. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, the first 2 shows in the series were Native Voices of New England. And now for number 3, we're smack dab flat in the prairie country. And I was envisioning this morning, Victor, that there'll be a 4 and a 5 and a 6. Maybe we'll get to the West Coast.
I'm going to be using Tim Hirschmore then, definitely.
Oh, definitely. And you'll be part of 4, 5, and 6, no question. And maybe once we'll rope in, image from the West, we'll rope in Gemma to be our third wheel or third leg of the wheel, stool, whatever. Yes. This tone is so wonderful. This humor is so delightful. And Denise is a brand new voice for me, but she's got it. Brought up some of the memories of our earlier show. So check them out.
Yeah, apparently the Academy appreciates her, so yes. So let's see, is it time to move on to the next poet?
Yeah, it'd be great. Yeah.
Okay, that would be, and I provided a visual of N. Scott Momaday as well, so we could see that. There he is, it's a composite, one who's younger, and one more, the lower right is more contemporary.
Yes, I could.
Apparently he can be quite a performer.
I'd love to know that because I never got to see him or meet him or read any of him, just sort of on the surface back in the mid-'70s. And here he is, about to turn 89. But these colors are so good. This is the desert Southwest colors,
Yeah, I did that on purpose.
Aha!
I took a couple of photographs and just put them against that background.
Perfect. Perfect choice. And look at him on the lower right there. I mean, there he is in all his glory.
But performing more flamboyantly on the upper left. Anyway.
Aha.
So his full name is Navarro Scott Mamedati, but he simplified it to Mamede, N. Scott Mamede. His heritage is Kiowa. He's internationally renowned poet, novelist, artist, teacher, storyteller. More than 16 works that celebrate Native American culture and its oral storytelling traditions. 1969, he won a Pulitzer for his debut novel, Housemaid of Dawn. I got that ordered. As a matter of fact, I want to read it. He was the first Native American to win a Pulitzer. And he's gotten many awards and honors, including the 2021 Frost Medal for Distinguished Lifetime Achievement, and on and on. He's a longtime professor of English and American literature, got his PhD from Stanford University. He retired as Regents Professor at the University of Arizona, and now he lives in New Mexico, so alas, the Midwest can't claim him so strongly anymore. This volume, I admit I borrowed it from the library, is Dream Drawings Full of Prose Poems, Configurations of a Timeless Kind by Scott Mamede. And I'm going to, this is quite surreal stuff.
Yeah, and the colors sell the book, They say that covers really sell a book. That's a beautiful cover, just gorgeous.
Right. Oh, am I coming on backwards? No, it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Dream Drawings by Scott Mamede.
Beautiful.
Okay, I'm holding up too much.
No, that's good. Well, hold up more.
Okay. The first one is Centaur. The boy caught sight of the animal as it grazed in a cover of grasses. It was a bright morning in the story of time. It might have been yesterday or thousands of years ago. The boy caught his breath. Never had he seen or even dreamed of such a creature. Latent, it seemed a work of art, a statue or a painting on a cave wall, perhaps. It was equal to the far reach of the boy's wonder. The boy shouted in pure delight, and the animal erupted in motion. It ran at great speed, and the strength that informed its whole body was under perfect control. Light rippled on its flanks. Its blue-black hooves struck like rapid drum beats on the earth, and its chiseled head lunged like the point of a spear into the crystal air. Tears came to the boy's eyes, and in his mind there came a conviction that he could barely express. We belong to each other, this creature and I.
That really moves me. That prose poem is so packed that I almost don't want to unpack it. It's so gorgeous in itself, almost like a sculpture. And several things poke out really strongly. The wonder of the boy's imagination, almost equal to the wonder of a work of art. being expressed. Also, the surrealism of being able to almost enter a myth imaginatively, and the making of myths. But then there's this very real human boy with a sense of childhood wonder that almost is palpable, makes a reality in itself. The diction is fascinating. Just abstract.
Very clean.
Yeah. Abstract, concrete. Abstract, concrete. Boy, I would read that with reverence, just the way you did. It's just so wondrous to behold, almost. Oh.
Yes, he's taken a European myth,
Uh-huh.
but he gives this surreal feel that so many native legends have.
Yeah.
It may draw on the myth that, wasn't it Achilles who was tutored by the centaur Chiron?
Pretty
in Greek
good.
myth?
Pretty good background. I don't even recall any of that now, but
W.H. Auden wrote a poem about that, and but his poem was more ironic, and this is just full of the wonder of the power of nature. It's really a lot about the power of natural forces.
Yes, and just for those children with a sense of wonder at home who might be tuning in, what is a centaur?
Now, it could be a misperception, but it's a being that from the loins up is a human being,
Yeah,
and further down it's a horse.
yeah. And
And
pictures.
there's even, I saw something in the British Museum about Lapiths, people who are having a war with centaurs. A battle. There's actually a high relief ancient Greek carving of that. Some think it was a misperception when foot soldiers first encountered mounted warriors and thought that they were a fusion of man and horse, man and stallion. But that's just a guess.
Well, that's a wonderful image, and yeah, that's what I remember from childhood, the image of the centaur. But that's durable, because the centaur keeps showing up in Disney or, well,
Right.
powerful stuff. Perfect time to take a 3-minute break, and
We're halfway? Okay, good.
it goes like, so please, viewer, come back. We're enjoying ourselves immensely. I hope you're picking up on that, and we'll be back in 3.
As a scientist, I know by the time she takes her first breath, 9 billion more tons of carbon pollution will be in the air. When she takes her first steps, wildfires will have burned millions more acres she could have explored. By the time a child born today goes to college, it may be too late to leave them the world we promised. Our window to act on climate change is like watching them grow up. We blink and we miss it.
If I could go back and change it all, I would. I think I'm gonna miss you the most. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Or maybe it's just the little moments. If I could go back and change it all, if I could go back, I would. But I can't.
Put a frog in a pot of boiling water and it'll jump right out. But put a frog in a pot of cool water and slowly heat it up, and that frog will boil. As veterans, we can tell ourselves the lie that it's easier to stay in that boiling water, to disconnect. But you've never been interested in easy. You are not a frog.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Hey Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Smart TVs and streaming services have taken over the television industry. VSC TV is proud to announce our presence on Apple TV and Roku to make watching your favorite shows even easier. You can access this service by downloading the Cablecast ScreenWeave app. Then choose Valley Shore Community TV from the list of channels. Select VSC TV Live to watch our channel in full HD. Or pick a show from our on-demand video library. VSC TV is your local Connecticut Mid-Shore Valley digital connection.
Welcome back. Oh, I'm here with my dear friend of 56 years, Victor Urbanowicz, a real mensch. And
Same back out, you Frank.
oh, and what a wonderful service announcement that was about getting the kids out of the house and back into nature to understand really how nature works, and poetry too. So poetry is really keeping us alive. And we are going on a journey today back to the Midwest, the prairie lands, finding poets, native voices, native nations. There's so many different native nations, as Gemma pointed out. I think there's 507 recognized tribes in the current U.S., and that's some who are not recognized are beyond that. So I guess it's a totally legal definition. Anyway, they're full of life, they're full of poetry, they're full of culture that really keeps different parts of the country pollinated in the most wonderful ways. I wish I could go back 50 years. How about you, Victor? And do it all over again. Move to South Dakota in 1972. You back to the University of Iowa. All this stuff. But I don't know. We wouldn't have our experience or knowledge that really we're bringing to the show today. And our friendship, which is marvelous. So, here we go. What else you got cooking?
Well, I had about 3 more slated about Scott Momaday, but I'd like to jump ahead to, one is really more powerful. The other two are kind of cerebral, but this is another mythic one, and it's called The Ice Woman.
Aha, good to jump ahead.
Yeah. Because we have, 30 minutes left? Okay. We still have to do Hyde Erdrich. So, last by Scott Momaday. A whale hunter walked out into the night. There were shimmering colored lights in the night sky. They were so bright that they seemed to rend the darkness and set fire to the snowfields. The man was enchanted, and in his amazement and delight, he began to whistle. Thereupon, one of the lights came down upon him like a bolt of lightning. It would surely have killed him, but the whale hunter was stronger than most men, and he seized the light and wrestled it to the ground. In his grasp, the light became the frozen shape of a beautiful woman, an ice sculpture burning with brilliant colors from within. The ice woman continued to shimmer and writhe in the whale hunter's grasp in his arms, And where she touched him, he too turned to ice. His life was frozen in his bones. Everything the ice woman touched turned to ice, but it was not illumined by the bright dancing glow inside her. She returned to the night sky.
Oh my goodness, that takes.
I guess she showed him.
That takes your breath away. Oh, the imagery, Victor. What a poem. Somewhere between myth and the constellations. And oh, it's just so alive. And the way he plays with light too. It is a really powerful poem. You chose that right. Very powerful. I've got to go back. I mean, I've got to go back and really experience N. Scott Momaday for the first time in a way that I just missed out. And now that you're ordering a book, boy, I'm going to go follow you, really, because it opens so many new possibilities of feeling poetry in a different way from a different voice. I mean, truly, this is like a revelation to me, like Eureka. Where's this guy, coming from? Where was he all these 50 years that I had heard his name but never knew him?
Yeah,
that's a great choice. That one is just super.
Maybe I could read something from an introduction to the next poet that seems to apply to Scott Momaday as well.
Oh, cool.
The Osage scholar Robert Warrior says, perhaps the greatest lesson of Indian poetry is that it has often shown us not only how tradition is able to live in new written forms, but that it does not have to dress up in beads and feathers in order to be powerful.
Powerful, amen, that is it.
Yes. Native poetry can simultaneously embody both tradition and innovation. And this particular Robert Warrior says, he emphasizes the writtenness of Native poetry. Also, it is new, it is edgy. It is geared up to any challenge it takes on language, ideas, science, computers, pop music, Facebook, love, even other poetry.
Wow, that is such a great summary introduction to, people who would be looking for Native nations, Native voices for the first time. We are now at 15 minutes, so we've got about 8 left, and so choose wisely, choose well.
Okay, let's show the picture of Hyde Erdrich, maybe just the first composite, first one of her and her 3 sisters.
Oh, the 3 sisters
Hyde
one.
Erdrich on the left. She reminds me of an English professor I had. In the middle is the famous Louise Erdrich, and also on the right, this holding a gloved hand on Louise's hand is Lisa Erdrich. All 3 of them are published writers. They are North America's Bronte sisters, you might say.
Ha
Part German in heritage and part Anishinaabe. Hyde Erdrich grew up in Wahpeton, North Dakota, where her parents taught at the Bureau of Indian Affairs boarding school. So she's Métis Ojibwe from Turtle Mountain on her mother's side, and German American on her father's side. She went to Dartmouth and Johns Hopkins. She's worked as a seamstress, cleaning lady, court scene reporter, teen counselor, police dispatcher, jail matron, bartender, teacher, and multicultural student counselor. And she's widely published in her poetry. So Now, what shall I read by Hyde Erdrich?
But what a family! Oh my goodness! It's wonderful to see this photo, this picture in color.
Yeah. And there are a couple more of just Hyde herself. She's made a few YouTube videos just talking about writing. So, let's see. And maybe the third one. Okay. There are a couple about teenage girls. I'll read Breaking and Entering on page 18. And then maybe a contrasting one. She kept a stash of forbidden matches, got caught dropping splashes of wax on her bed. Iced over sidewalks, the ones I love to skim, she cracked with her hard heel. All I got was water welling up where she walked. Still, I followed through the shards, saw her jump in some boy's car. She started the dream. A storm with flat hands bangs on all the windows, a storm in a green gown with rain-dark hair. This girl, who wouldn't lift her gray eyes to her mother's gaze, would make love in old farmhouses on abandoned box springs on scoured linoleum, in rusted bathtubs, junked trucks along windbreaks. She broke in, she told me, not to love those boys, but to melt them down, look them in the eye and crack their glaze. She started the dream. A storm pries the edge off the roof, lifts my lids, glares at me with a gray eye that strikes unloved, that can get past all human walls.
Wow. Bravo.
There's a lot packed into there, isn't there?
Oh my goodness. And the melting of the wax on the bed, which links with, oh boy, is she melting those boys. Ha! Oh,
Breaking eyes, yeah.
Oh, this is such a wonderful poem. And I had a certain echo, all of a sudden, of Centaur. There was a sound, and it was the drumming, quote, the drumming, this is N. Scott Momaday, the drumming of the hooves of the centaur on the land. And of all images to choose would be drumming, the native nations kind of drumming. But N. Scott Momaday is echoing for me, and it's a sound. Sound is a big part of Native Nations poems so far that I've experienced. The actual sound, but here it's the light, it's the wax, the heat. Oh, teenage girls! Wow, that one is
one of those daughters that Denise Sweet's mother would worry about, for sure.
Very good. One of those daughters that the mother would worry about for sure. Boy, that's a nice contrast too.
Hey world, I have a quick message. It's about safe driving. All right, let's go. Anytime you're driving, have the seatbelt buckled tight. Both hands on the wheel and your phone out of sight. When not in your hand trying to text somebody back. Because if you do, your car might get smacked. The moral of the story, just put your phone down. The people on the road will stay safe and sound. Put your phone down, put your phone down. People on the road will stay safe and sound. Yeah.
We are about to wind down completely. So last word to you, buddy. You're the dramaturge. You're the consultant extraordinaire. You're the
Thank you.
originator of a really hot show. So there'll be number 4, 5, and 6. I can't wait. These are getting so good. Oh my goodness. And, folks here will figure it out what the reference to Connecticut's Attorney General was. So,
We won't go into it.
last word of interest.
Let me just say, I'm sorry for some reason, the applause and laughter was muted out. I especially enjoyed the uneasy response when he used the phrase, in what is now called Minnesota. There was some grumbling at that.
Yeah, although it came through loud and clear here, the audience.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, oh, really good. Yeah, the first laugh right on. So, a word of wisdom from you, now that you've explored the prairie poets so diligently. What has changed? What can change with respect for the culture of Native nations in this country? Who knows? I mean,
The Native Americans are getting more money, partly from attention, partly from the casino wealth, and they're getting more recognition and respect.
aha. And we're going to do our part today with honoring their voices in such a meaningful way. You covered the waterfront too. I'm mixing metaphors all over the place, but that's my kind of day. We are now in wrap. So thanks again, Victor. It was just such a pleasure. And you did the work and I did the enjoyment.
Thanks for reading.
Oh, I love it.
I enjoyed it too.
Yeah, and for number 4 and 5, we'll split up Division of Labor and do some separate reading too. You bet. So for now, goodbye. And we are at the end of January, and there are 2 more shows coming down. This one, as I said, will be available first part of March. Thanks again, Victor. It's a sunny, happy day here, so we're sending it your way, but it usually comes the other way.
It was a sunny and 16 degrees this morning. I think it's warmer and cloudier now.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.